Your relationship with money is your same as your relationship with yourself and other people. It requires effort. And so that's where I would focus, is on just really looking at them. Visibility is going to be key to getting any sort of clarity in the long term.
Welcome to The Raquel Show. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to play bigger in business and in life. Today, I have a very special guest who I met in a mastermind, I think almost like 2 years ago. And we connected during COVID. I'm super impressed with her because she comes from the corporate world. When I first met her, she was a CFO at a large company prior to coming to the mastermind, and was one of the youngest, I would say probably, if not the youngest, CFOs that I had ever met, and was part of a company, a young leader. And I just love watching her grow. And her energy is so amazing. I mean, nobody really wants to talk about finances unless you're creating revenue and making profit, right? And she makes it so less stressful. It's why they call themselves the financial unicorns or crowns. She is definitely a unicorn in the space. And we even shared an experience of Turks and Caicos, which I will never forget. So welcome to the show, Bridgette Boucha.
Hello. It's so good to see you. It's always lovely to see you.
Oh my God, I'm so honored, number one, that you're on the show, because you have so much knowledge, and I know we'll only get to a little bit of it today, and so many nuggets I know you will drop for the audience. But I want them to know, who is this powerhouse, Bridgette, and what is it that you do and you're passionate about?
Yeah. So Raquel kind of started out that I'm the money person. So when you think about money and finance and business, you can think about me. So I am an entrepreneur myself, and I basically exist with me and my team, my business partner, Amanda, and we help entrepreneurs, manage their business finances and optimize their business resources so that they can run a really profitable, sustainable, mission-driven business, but also live a fuller life. And that is something that we get to do in not just our business, but that we strive to do in our personal lives so that we can then go forward and teach it. So it's been just a really fun journey these last few years, kind of coming into this mission and watching it come to life and scale, and the ripple effect that it's been having.
Oh, so juicy. I mean, who wouldn't want a person in their circle that actually will help you optimize some of the resources and create more money and profit? How would you tell somebody, if somebody is listening and wants to get started, and really, because I think a lot of people that listen to our show are not necessarily newer entrepreneurs, but in their scaling season, and they've usually leveraged it off to somebody else, what should they be paying attention to when it comes to what you just said?
Yeah. This is a great question. It starts with the basics and it kind of builds from there. But I think, I find a lot of entrepreneurs, this is common. So if this is you, no, you're not alone. A lot of entrepreneurs are creative, right? They're the face of the business. They're the brand. They're the one generating revenue. And there's a lot of pieces that fall on your shoulders, especially as you're scaling. And where I think, I'd like you to focus, if numbers aren't your jam, that's okay. But in order to scale, you're going to have to use them to make financial decisions. You're going to have to use them, not just like your standard numbers, your financials, but your operational things like your KPIs, or, anything that moves the needle. What gets measured gets changed. So if you're trying to scale your business, if you're trying to change your results, you're really going to have to familiarize yourself with these tools. That's all numbers are, right? They're just a tool. And your financials just tell you the story of your business. So if you're not happy with the story, then you got to change the activities that will change that story. And so educating yourself, trying to figure out exactly, success leaves clues, we all say, right? So if something works well, double down on that. If it didn't work so well, try something else. And, the only way that you can really get familiar with editing the story is if you're looking at it. So it's got to become a ritual. It's got to become a practice. Oftentimes I hear entrepreneurs, especially early stage, kind of speak about money from a different energetic level. It kind of represents maybe some fear, some mystery, sometimes some shame. That's very normal. We all have different money stories from our upbringing or our circles. And we want to take that conversation and change it. to a place of potential and possibility, and really something that should be empowering, because money is just an energy like anything else. Your relationship with money is your same as your relationship with yourself and other people. It requires effort. And so that's where I would focus, is on just really looking at them. Visibility is going to be key to getting any sort of clarity in the long term.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, is that you've got to look at your numbers. They all share and tell a story, and it's feedback. Data is feedback, as we tend to look at, KPIs when it comes to scaling. And you talked about rituals. How often would you say, at bare minimum, somebody should look at their finances or the story that it's saying?
Oh, I love this question too. I think at the beginning, you're going to want to look at them more often. Weekly could be fine. And the reason that I say this is, it's a statistic that's always moving, but around 60% of business owners struggle with cash flow management. So if you're in a business where you're launch based, or you might not have recurring revenue, or, you're managing inconsistent cash flow. So when I say weekly in the beginning, you really want to get to know the behavior of your cash flow. So a tip that I would give, if you've got a pen, grab it. I would divide your month in a third, a third, and a third, and get to know what's coming in and going out. And I usually do the first third is like the 1st through the 9th of the month, then the 10th through the 20th, and then the 21st through the end of the month. And the reason that is so important is, like, all of us, I remember when I bought my first house, and like the mortgage came out on the 1st, but I didn't get paid till like the 5th. And I always felt behind, right? Like there was like all these different timing differences. And it could be this way for your credit cards, your business credit cards, your payroll, different investment commitments, obligations that you have. So when you get to know the behavior of your cash flow, you can start to pull on some of the levers to change that, so you don't feel like everything's coming out in the beginning of the month and then the revenue's coming in at the end. There are certain things that you can do to help kind of smooth that out, reduce the anxiety that can come with that. And so that's why I like the third, a third, and a third model, to be able to look at it and say, okay, what is the behavior of my cash doing? Because I kind of got to tell it where to go, or it can just disappear. Just like subscriptions or different things that are coming out automatically. You just want to make sure that those are still valid based on your current goals and not maybe last year's goals, right? Do you still have the systems and support in place to reach the goals that you're seeking now?
Such great advice. And for as long as, and it could be the industry that I've known, when people have managed a business or built a business, the cash flow isn't always the same. And the revenue isn't always the same from month to month, even week to week. Whether you're in construction, you're always floating, cash flow at some extent, because you're making big investments. Even in tech companies, like, you don't see it all the time unless maybe it's a gym membership. But even that, you're like selling, right? Selling memberships for the year. So you do have like where January probably has the most. and then, come March until it's summertime, then they've got that U and that V, just as much as all of us in the entrepreneur like space, even doing business online.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The cash flow is going to be key, and it's just something that will help you. It builds confidence. It's like anything else, is the more you look at it, the less scary it can be. Because a lot of times we make up the end of the story when we don't know it. It's like a human nature thing, and it's never in our favor. So do yourself a favor and start looking at these things, because it's just a point in time. I always say you have to pull the curtain back, look the money monster in the face, and then make her prettier over time, right? It's just a data point.
So good. So good. So you talked about like pull the curtain, and there's something that you do for your clients that you're known for, which is this money mapping session. Tell the audience what that is. I'd love to, have them know what it is and how powerful something like that could be.
Yeah. A lot of times, it's not that business owners, they're really in the weeds of the business, right? Like making things happen, passionate, doing all of these things. And oftentimes what we were hearing is, I don't know what's happening. Like, I can't see beyond the week ahead, or I can't see beyond the month ahead. I know I need to hire, but I don't know if I can afford it. I'm not sure what I should be putting away for taxes. I'm not sure if I'm pricing profitably. And so these questions come up over and over and over again. And a money mapping session is designed to give you that visibility. And so it's really a 3-part strategy is basically what it is. There's a financial assessment on the front end. And that basically is just where Amanda and I get in and look at your financials. Because again, we want to know, what's the story? What's the story telling? You could tell a story and your finances could tell a different story. And we just really need to look at that and kind of see what it's saying. And then we go into an in-person jam session, which is minimum 4 hours, where we pluck you out of your environment and we really dig in and we say, who's the person behind that business owner? Like, what matters to you? What lights you up? Why did you do this? What do you want to make time for? How can we structure your business to scale around the lifestyle that you have been seeking? Because many of us, some of us were entrepreneurs from day one. Some of us left corporate, like myself. So once you do that, you have this vision in mind, and there's a hustle and there's a grind. I know we kind of use those words sparingly sometimes, but there is a season of the business that is required. But as you start to generate revenue and you start to turn profit, it's our job to really help you turn that into more revenue and more profit with visibility. So things like making hiring decisions. Who can I afford? When do I pay them? How do I pay myself? Am I paying myself? Because you'd be surprised that doesn't happen as consistently as we'd like. And, we want to make sure that the business owner is taken care of. So that strategy session is really designed to pluck out of the environment, think big, create the safe space to talk about the shit that you don't need to talk about with other people, or you might just not be talking about, because not everybody's privy to your financial information, and that's okay. But you need to find somebody that can guide you through that in that season of business. And so during that session, the money map is being built. It's essentially a 12-month forecast with all kinds of fun numbers and metrics in there. And we have a follow-up call after that where we deliver it and we talk about how we can support you going forward. A lot of times that falls out from the session. Maybe it's advisory, CFO, strategy, leadership, bookkeeping, those types of things, because the session is going to identify the roadmap. Now, how do we support you in actually achieving that? And it's different for every business owner. And I can't stress this enough, y'all. Like, it's not what we do and what a lot of people offer. It's not a solution in a box. It's very custom to you. How long have you been in business? How big are your goals? Do you have products, service, both? There's a different complexity level, and we want to make sure that you're compliant, that you have visibility, that you have the support that you need, the systems that you need to be able to scale. And so it's a really effective way for us to get to know our business owners, for them to get to know us, and for us to collaborate together to create this like monetary vision board, if you will. It's a very exciting thing. I can't explain. It's like part logic, part magic, and that's literally how the feeling is. And we're a little bit soulful. One of our prerequisites of working with clients is they have to be on a personal growth journey, or they just won't understand the spin that we have on, how we manage money from a soulful, spirited place.
That's so exciting. And you hit it on the nose, is that like it's customized to you? Because when you are looking at finances, when you're looking at how a business operates, and we say this all the time, there's been no two businesses that I've seen scale exactly the same way. There just hasn't been. And like everybody has the CEOs, the visionaries, they have their own zone of genius and what they're good at. And not everybody can be the exact same way. So
and we wouldn't be honoring them if we tried to do that. And that's what is such a big part of my message, is just honoring yourself throughout this entire journey. Because for so long, if you had a life before entrepreneurship like I did, or even if you didn't, there was a different version of yourself, even 2 years ago before the pandemic, right? And we're continuing to evolve. And it's our obligation to look at our lives, look at our success metrics, look at what we feel, how we feel about what we're doing, and adjust accordingly. We were given kind of a gift with the pandemic, with an elimination diet, if you will. We got rid of spending, we got rid of obligations, some relationships, commitments, offers. Like, the world changed. And, I hope that we are being good stewards of that time that we are adding back, because never before, to my knowledge, has that happened where we've been given that. And yes, it was inconvenient. And yes, it was terrifying. And the uncertainty was anxiety ridden. But at the same time, what a blessing to be able to say, what if I could build this over again? What matters to me? Success is more of a feeling. And I believe that when we start to identify it to the emotion, then rather than the number, like I always say, no revenue goal is worth your peace. Then we start to be able to say, oh, now I'm building a life I'm really proud of.
Love it. So on the flip side, let's turn the tables a little bit. What do you think, because we've said a lot of why this is important, is what do you think the biggest mistakes, after seeing and hearing and being in part of so many different groups, is what do you think the biggest mistake most entrepreneurs make when it comes to finances, or when it comes to looking at their books, or when it comes to even strategizing, on how to optimize their business.
Yeah, this is a really timely one. So I want everybody to listen up, because this is happening with current clients, and it's over investing. And I mean this, I am a product of a mastermind of several. I love coaches and mentors and groups and different things like that. I am a big believer in it. And I myself have gotten caught up in maybe being in too many at once. But what I'm seeing is there's a couple things where maybe there is too many different, almost like too many cooks in the kitchen, where you might be getting like, you want to be able to get the most out of every investment that you make, whether it's a group or a coach or a program or a self-paced. And either you have too many going at once, or you have committed to something that's a long-term contract and it's actually doesn't line up with your goals anymore. So it's kind of just this sunk cost. Example, like you might only have access to something for 12 months, but your other side of your business, one of your offers just took off, and you've got to be able to like follow that momentum. And as a result of that, it's the right move. But as a result of that, this other one sits idle. So I'm seeing some overinvesting, and especially when the cash flow doesn't support it. We're dreamers, right? We're doers, we're entrepreneurs. We want to get out there and just like, make an impact on the world. And we get excited. And we want to go ahead and do that in the fastest way possible, with a big network of community and support and a reduced learning curve, and masterminds and groups are the way to do that. And we also need to recalibrate every once in a while and give ourselves space to implement, to execute on it, to try and fail forward, because you can't make any adjustments until you make those decisions. So if you're constantly like in like consumption mode, you really don't have time to create. And so I say that so lovingly, because I'm such a fan of all of these programs. But I also would just ask you to just really look at it and say, how can I make the most of this investment? Because it is a bet on myself. I'm betting on myself, if I get in these rooms, that I'm going to make something happen as a result of that. And if I don't have the time and capacity to do that, then I'm kind of just setting myself up to be squeezed, and nobody wants to be squeezed.
Oh, so good. You said a couple of like lots of nuggets, and like you dropped a lot of bombs there for sure. And I just want to reiterate, is like time and capacity. That's like one of our key things to our 5 C's is capacities when it comes to scaling a business. Because you said it, it's that you can overconsume and not go into action, which is it really an investment, or is it really an expense at that point? Because you've just spent what made you feel good or what you were taught. And I think you couldn't be any more right if like people over investing. Yes. Mm-hmm. And having different methodologies, different frameworks that could clash when you have multiple coaches. Right. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I say to people when they're scaling is make sure you have the right people. It's no different than having a CFO, a tax person. If they have different methodologies, that board of directors is not going to work for you. Mm-hmm. Right. The way they utilize money may not work if they all clash together. Mm-hmm. That happens in the coaching world when you invest.
Yep. Absolutely.
I love it. So what would you say are talking about investing, are some of the top things that people should actually invest in when it comes to their business?
Ooh, see, it's not all about cutting costs, y'all. It's about scaling. And I love this question, because that is the whole sign of money being abundant, of being able to create. Managed money can multiply. Mm-hmm. So money is a renewable resource. Time is not. So I always am going to be able to say, like, you have got to figure out where your time and energy is going as a business owner, or as the, main, face of the brand, however you describe yourself as an entrepreneur. You have to figure out where your time is going. So I would highly encourage you to look at, what is it actually costing you not to do this? So if you were to look at hiring support of some sort, like, you need to look at ways to get your time back. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can look at hiring, maybe some flexible hiring. I wouldn't recommend full-time right away. If you're not ready for it, try it on for size. Start with a project, build from there. It's going to force you to get your shit together, because I remember my first hire was a virtual assistant, and I was terrified to be like, oh, here's my mess, but that's literally like, you have to get over that ego point. So resources, as far as team goes, for things that are either not your jam, not your cup of tea, maybe you don't have time to do it, maybe you're not doing it at all, those are going to be really important. I would also look at systems and workflow, because minutes are money. So as you have to recreate the wheel, or you start to look at things And these are tasks that are like repeatable. So you're going to want to automate those and systematize those in any way you possible. And we are really fortunate in this season of life where entrepreneurs, we have a lot of access to systems that are, minimal cost that will help make our lives easier. But it's just a matter of kind of putting them all together. I love doing like a systems map. Okay, what am I offering? What touches what's automated? Those kinds of, I know Raquel's over there like nodded. She's like, heck yes. But it's really, really important because it's about the systems and support, getting those in place so that you can scale without burning out. I also, as I mentioned, I am a big believer in support and community. Entrepreneurship can be very isolating. So while you might have your systems and support in place, where's the idea machine? Where's the expansive conversations? Whether that is something that happens organically or within your community, or it's a group that you're a part of, go where the experts are, go where the people are having bigger conversations. My life has dramatically changed since I got into my first mastermind. And as a result of that, it's kind of like you can't unsee it when you start to have these types of conversations. It's kind of like anything that you do. If you play a sport, you kind of have that connection with people. If you're a parent, you have a connection with, people. Businesses are our babies, right? Like they are the things that we bring into this world. And, it's really just important that we have people that we can share some ideas with that are actually in it as well. I love my family. I love my husband and I love my friends. They are in my life for a reason. They just might not be to help me scale my business, right? And that's okay. Like my husband, life partner, not business partner. And I learned that kind of the hard way when I first started my business. I thought it was supposed to be all like, yeah, it's not. You just have to identify that. That was a big aha for both me and him like 6 years ago. I thought we were supposed to be like in this together and he was going to be just excited about all my business as I am. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. He just needs
there's no all in one. You're like the role of everything, right?
Yes.
You couldn't have said it any better. And I'm smiling at Bridgette right now as we're doing this podcast is because I could so relate. It's like we at one point thought like our friends, our circle was supposed to be everything, but that's why we hire people. That's why we get into masterminds, is because they serve a purpose in your world today. So there's one question that I love asking all of our guests on this show. And it is, what does Bridgette do to play bigger in business and in life?
Okay. So I'm going to geek out and go straight up calendar on your ass because it's multifunctional, right? Like multifunctional, like the calendar, I have everything in the calendar: life, business, work, planning time, all kinds of things. Whatever your methodology is, just use your version of however you track your time. A couple of things, like I need to do a calendar review to keep myself in check. Am I keeping my boundaries aligned? Was that a good use of time, or was that something that maybe was a one and done and I shouldn't repeat it? Because I, like many of you, can get caught in kind of people pleasing mode, or yeah, I was asked to do this shit, I should probably do this. And maybe it doesn't align with my ultimate goal. And I'm getting better at the no muscle. I'm sure you are too. It's just one of those things that we have to learn over time. So the calendar allows me to do something really important. One of my favorite practices is the calendar review. I do it monthly. I do it quarterly. I probably do it again annually. And it's just that I open up the calendar and I get a piece of paper and I draw a line down the center. And on one side, it says energy plus, and on one side, it says energy negative. And I go day by day, every event, because they repeat some of the things. So it's not going to take you like days to do this. But it gives me a very visual, intentional analysis of how I'm spending my time. It is the most important resource that we have. It is the non-renewable resource. It is the thing that we can turn into joy. And so I read somewhere, and I wish I could remember which author it is. We're doing a lot of reading, but it was like, what if your calendar was just a beautiful depiction of the joy in your life? And it was just like, wow, like I want something like that. So I do the review, but I also, as far as playing bigger and I make sure that I have something on my calendar that I look forward to. For me, it's travel. It might not be that for everybody else. I love to travel. I love to have a trip. Raquel, you mentioned that we were together in Turks. I mean, it's just still makes me light up like a firecracker to think about the amazingness of that trip. And I have another trip coming up in May that I'm really excited about. It's Italy. And I've never been, and I don't know how I've never been until now, but I'm going to spend a couple of weeks over there. And my style. So it's part solo, part social. So I like to kind of integrate in. So to me, that's important. But again, success is a feeling. What lights you up? What's important? How are you incorporating that into your calendar so that you can live that life? You're creating the space, even if it's white space, to let the magic happen.
Yeah.
So calendar is a huge thing for me. I would recommend whatever your version of calendar and tracking time is, that you do that. And that means also expansive conversations, income producing activities. Like it goes with a business as well, right? It's all connected.
You're definitely my soul sister. I think that white space, that's where the most creativity happens, when you can actually get away or think and like not be jam packed back to back, because it's like you're in it, you're in the thick of the weeds, and you couldn't have said it better. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, I took this practice on this year. On Mondays, like Monday mornings are my flame work. It is what I get to evaluate on what lights up my soul, what lights me up. When I look back, it's like, I light the candle, I do all the things. And I look back at my week, at my months of like, and what am I not doing that would light me up? Right. Mm-hmm. So what really, truly, I call it flame work.
I wrote that word down because it's just so fabulous.
No joke. I mean, like, I have a candle that says create positive energy for those that are watching. Yeah. I think it's been the biggest game changer so far in our business. And like the team respects it, because that's when I come in with a lot of creativity. Coming off of a weekend, because usually Monday mornings, we've always been told that it's got to be stressful and it's got to be jam-packed with meetings. And no, it's actually my time, my me time to think strategically and creatively. And who do I want to connect with?
It is. You guys, reclaim Mondays. If you are an entrepreneur, it is your duty to reclaim Mondays. We used to give them such a bad rap. They are a beautiful time to create.
Oh my gosh, you have said so many things, and I could jam with you for like ever. Where can people connect with you and find you?
Yeah, mostly on Instagram at Bridgette Boucha. And that's pretty much where I hang out. Any other links are pretty much in there to be able to, find some more info, but a lot of free resources, I do a lot of money bombs on, videos, and I just started reels. So like when I say I walk the walk, like meaning I didn't know how to do reels, but I really wanted to, actually that's wrong. I didn't want to learn. I just wanted to get them done. So I hired somebody to help me do them. So again, it's about getting my time back. I still get the creative control. I'm still the face of it, but I hired somebody to actually execute it for me. So if there's something in your business that you feel like will, be able to put you out there in a different way, that's an investment example that I can provide that I've just done recently. So go check out my reels. Tell me what you think.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Your reels have been on fire, by the way.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Bridgette, for being on the show. I appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship. I'm so grateful to have met you. And I love seeing your journey and all the things that you have created and all the lives you get to impact, you unicorn. Have an amazing, I know you guys will listen to this again. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.